Welcome to my channel. So in this video, I'm going to be taking you through nanobot, an ultra lightweight personal AI assistant. So one of the things that differentiates nanobot with others is that nanobot has some exciting features. For example, you could see here, it exposes an OpenAI-compatible API. That means you could serve nanobot as an agent. Apart from that, nanobot also comes with a Python SDK. That means you could use it to build agents of your own. Beside that, nanobot also enables you to deploy multiple instances of it using its config and workspace options. This is why I'm so excited to take you through from the beginning to the end of how to effectively use nanobot. So now I'm going to paste the command to install nanobot. So I'm going to paste it here and then I'm going to install. So I'm using UV. I'm going to give it some time. So nanobot has been installed. So the next step is to configure nanobot. So in order to configure nanobot, there are two options. So nanobot comes with this configuration file. So you could directly come here and change what is going to be your default agent and what is going to be your provider. So we're going to be modifying this file manually if we want. But you could also just do nanobot on bot. So let's use this option. So we're going to take this to the terminal as well. So I'm going to clear the shell to give me space here. And then we're still going to run this command. So we're going to paste it and we're going to onboard nanobot. Here you see the first thing that happens is that our configuration file is created here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this because I'm going to use this to open this configuration file because I want to show you the configuration file. So also what you discover out of the box here is that the heartbeat is created, the user, the soul, the agent.md, and the tools.md. All these files are also created. So your memory file is also created, which is called the history.jsonl. So your histories are being stored here. So now nanobot is ready. So if we want to set nanobot, you see the next step is to add the API keys here. So we're going to be opening this folder, and then we are going to be getting our API provider config. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to open this using either Visual Studio Code or Winsoft that I use. So I'm going to paste it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the entire folder. So what I'm going to do is this. So I'm going to say this. So I'm going to make sure that this folder, then I'm going to use Winsoft. So if you're using Visual Studio Code, you could type like code here and you can open it. So I'm going to be opening the entire folder. So I'm going to do Winsoft and then I'm going to open this folder. So now you see that the folder is open. So let me expand it so that you see it clearly. So we have access to this configuration file. And this is where we are going to be changing. We're going to change this file. And this is where we are going to be changing our agent and also providing what is going to be our default provider. So you could see the entire workspace is here. You have your agent.md. So you see what the agent.md is. And then you have your heartbeat. Here, the file is checked every 30 minutes by your, then we have the source. So these files are very, very important. So here is where, for example, you could change what it calls. It says, say, I'm nanobot, a personal AI assistant. So you see the core principles. And then these are the tools that are available. So these are the tools, grep, you see what is available here, head, limit, offset, execute, for cron, schedule, reminder, and the rest. So these are what nanobot will use out of. So for example, here you could say your name, you could say your time zone, you could say your language that you prefer. So you could set all these things, your communication style, you could set your technical level, you could set your primary role, your ID, whatever you want to set. So this is kind of like the workspace where you configure nanobot. So nanobot will also save your history here as well. So this is memory.md, and this is where nanobot will keep updating as you interact with it. And also your JSON history, this is where it's going to keep like section information. So enough of this. So let's go to the configuration file and get it configured. So let's configure our config.json. So here, this is what makes it very different. So here we are going to be choosing what our default provider is going to be. So here I'm going to come all the way down here. So I'm going to be looking for my provider. So you could also just search or you could just move around. So you see, I'm going to be using this Zippo. And what I'm going to be doing here is that I'm going to be providing the base API URL. So these are the two things that I want to provide, the base API URL. So in this case, depending on the provider you're using, your base API URL can be different. So my own provider, this is my base API URL. So I'm going to be putting it here in double quote. Make sure it's in double quote. So you're going to be putting it here. So I'm going to be providing it here. So this is the base API URL for my coding plan. Then I'm also going to be providing the API key here. So I'm going to also create the API key here. So the API key is going to be here. So I'm going to pause it so that I hide my API key from you guys. So I've actually provided the API key here. So I actually made a mistake here. So I'm going to take this one down here. So I'm just going to copy the whole of this. So I'm going to take this one out of here. So I'm going to do Command X. So I'm going to actually put it here. So don't worry, you won't be able to see my API key. So here I will just make sure that I just leave it with null. So null, and then here also with null. So this is how you configure your provider. So now we have my API key and we have the base API. So I'm up just to go up. So there are two more things to do. So when you do this, you need to move up. And then here, where you have your default provider. So you see here, provider is auto. So we're going to make sure that our provider is the same like the one we provided here. So let's go down here. So you see, this key is what we're going to provide there. So we're going to copy this and go all the way up. And then we're going to provide it here where we have provider. So I'm going to replace it here. So the next thing we're going to do is change this model. So I'm going to check for the model to change. So likely the model is going to be GLM. So it's going to be like GLM. And then I'm going to use 5.1. So I think that's the model that I'm going to be using. Hopefully this works. So this is how you configure your agent. So this is the configuration for the provider. So we're going to be discussing other configuration as well as time goes on. So I'm going to make sure that this is safe by just pressing Command X or Control X if you're on Windows. So now what we're going to do now is to start our nanobot agent. So we're just going to do nanobot, and then we're going to provide agent as an option. So nanobot agent, and let's see what's happened. And then we're going to say, maybe slash. So let's just do nanobot agent and see what happens. So now we have the interactive. So I could say, how are you? Just a simple, just to test whether our agent is working. And you see nanobot is thinking. And you see here, we get the response. The user is asking, so this is the thinking part of the model. And you see here, I'm doing well. Thanks. Ready to help you with whatever you need. What's on your mind? So you see our configuration is working. We've been able to configure our model. So let's move to the next one. So let's look at some more configuration settings. For example, you have this max token. The max token here is what the LLM can generate per response. So you can increase it for long form output. So the default here is 8192. So you have the context window tokens. So this is the total context window size in the tokens. So you have a lot of things here that you could change. So for example, you could change your time zone, the bot name. So this is for your default agent. So next, we're going to be looking at channels. So in channels here, you see for each of these channels, you could use this channel. So you have DingTalk here, you have Discord here, and then you have email here. Then you also have Facial here, and then you have a lot of Cure and the rest. So you have Telegram here. So for Telegram, you see here, you just need to put the boot father token here. So that's what we're going to be doing right now. So I'm going to be opening Telegram and generating this token and providing it here. And then we're going to be starting the gateway and see where we get from there. So we're going to go ahead now to create a new bot. So in Telegram, you just need to search for this user called the bot father. So the bot father is the one that you communicate with to create a bot. So we're going to come here. So to create a new bot, you use the /new bot. And then this is how you create a new bot. So when you say, all right, a name for the bot. So we're going to call it our nanobot. So this is going to be the user. So we're going to say nanobot user. So this is going to be the user of our bot. So now it's saying, so this is the name of our bot, sorry. So now we're going to say nanobot user. We choose a username now. So nanobot user again. So we're going to call it nanobot user. So now, okay, that the username must end with bot. So I can go with nanobot user bot. So the first one is the name of the bot. So now you see, or it says, sorry, the username must end with bot. So let's see. So let's see what happens. I'm just going to take this underscore out here and see what happens. So we just say nanobot nanobots. So this username is already taken. So we're going to do user nanobot user nanobot. So this is available. So now I'm going to take this token. So this is what I'm going to take, and I'm going to put it here. So I'm going to be putting the token here where we have token. So this is it. So now we've inserted the token. So the next thing we need to do, so we need to change enable to true. So you see, so you change this enable to true. So true is going to be here. So this is going to be enabled to true. And then we leave every other options as default. So we're going to save this file and then we're going to try it out. So here we're going to say Control S. So it's saved. Then we're going to try it out. So now we're going to create a new shell here. And what we're going to do first of all is to check the nanobot status. So we're going to do nanobot status. So this is actually going to show us all that is going on. So it's, for example, you see here that our Zipu AI is up, but it has no information about our channel. So in order to see our channel, we could do nanobot. And then in this time, we're going to do channels. And then we're going to do dash dash help. So this will show you all the commands that are associated with channel. So we could do channel status. And this will tell us if our Telegram channel is activated. So let's see. So you see here that our Telegram channel has been activated. So the next thing we need to do is to start the gateway. So the way you do is this gateway is actually what will serve our Telegram. So it's like the server on nanobot. So we're going to be doing nanobot. And then this time around, we're going to be doing gateway. So I think we can do gateway and then we can do dash dash help so that you also see other commands that are available here within the gateway. So you see, you can start the gateway by just typing nanobot gateway. So you can give it a port workspace. So you can give it a custom port you want and give it a workspace that you want it to use. So in this case, we just need to do a nanobot gateway. And this is going to get our gateway up and running. So you see, it's going to register all the tools. And you see here that our Telegram bot is up here and connected. So now we're going to switch over to Telegram to test our bot to see if we can communicate with our nanobot from Telegram. So now we're going to open the bot, so which is this user nanobot. And then we have access to the bot. We're going to say start. So we're going to try to chat with nanobot here and just say Python, let's say sets. So let's just say Python sets and see what it's going to assume we're talking about. So let's wait and see if our bot is going to respond. So on sending these two messages, nothing happened. So what I discovered is that the configuration file, I have set reply to message as false. So you also need to make this one to be true and allow from, I had to put star. So now when we chat to it and provide, for example, we give the same stuff like Python set, you're going to see that our bot is going to respond. And it's going to respond based on the, let's see. So let's just say something else. Let me see. Hi. You see, look at, if you notice here, there's this icon called the React emoji. So it's actually connected. So you see, so now we can say Python classes and just see what it's going to say. You see here, our bot is responding. So we've been able to connect nanobot to our nanobot. We have been able to connect Telegram to our nanobot. So that's it. So you see here that all the concepts are pouring out here and everything is happening very nicely here. So let's move to the next topic. So let's switch to the terminal. So in the terminal here, so I'm going to create a new terminal. Now we're going to look at nanobot again. So we're going to look at nanobot serve. So let's look at nanobot dash help so that you see. So nanobot is able to start an OpenAI-compatible API. So my favorite. So let's get this one going. So we're going to do nanobot and then we're going to use serve. So this is all we need to do. So this is going to serve nanobot. So you see, our nanobot is being served with this endpoint. The next thing we're going to be looking at is memory and dream. So I'm just going to go through this one quickly. So when I showed you all these memory layers. So we have section.messages, which is your short term that live within your. So if you do a /new, it's going to actually start a new section. So you have this archive here. So this JSON-L. And then you have soul for personality, user MD for user profile, memory.md for your project knowledge. So high level project knowledge has been put in here. So everything is available in the workspace I showed you earlier in the video. So here you can see when a conversation grows long enough to pressure the context window. So what happens? Consolidation kicks in automatically. It takes the oldest slice of the message, extract it, and append the summary to this. So this consolidation and auto compact it, and so all this one you can actually configure them within the config file. So you can configure them. Hours between dream runs, use of different model for dream. So you see history entries per run and maximum iteration. So all these ones are the settings that you get out of the box. So let's look at schedule tasks. So in schedule tasks here, the way it works is that you could just, in natural language, look at what is happening. Remind me to check the deployment log every 9 a.m. You see, and that is it. And that will help you schedule a particular task. I think that's all about schedule. So we're going to be talking about skills. So a skill is a directory containing a skill.md file. So you're going to see directories within the workspace that contain skills. For example, you have the weather skill here, and this is how a skill look like. So you see weather, use SQL to check, this website and return the information. So skills are this kind of description that are added in real time to your context when you are actually creating conversations. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to be installing a skill. So the skill is going to be created for us. So don't really worry much about all this unless you're going to be writing your custom skills. So what you're going to do basically is that you're going to go to any of the skill websites. So for example, I could go to skill.xh, and within the skill, just search for any skill. So you could just search for, let's say, Fast API. I use Fast API a lot, so I'm just going to choose one of the skills here, Fast API Python. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm just going to take this URL and I'm going to give it to nanobot. Nanobot is going to install this skill for me automatically on my workspace. So let's check that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell it install. It knows when I say install this skill, and then when I paste this, it's going to install the skill. So when we go back to our workspace after some time, you're going to see that we're going to have this skill called Fast API Python installed. So let's give it some time. I'm going to come back to the video and I'm going to show you when the skill has been installed. So as you can see now, the skill is installed in the directory. So look at the, watch out for the directory. It's in nanobot workspace skills Fast API. Then look at the skill.md. So you see, and say start a new section for it to be loaded. So you have to start a new section and the skill will be loaded. So I'm going to also briefly talk about tools and MCP. So these are built-in tools that come with Gwenpa. So you have the read file, the write file, the edit, and message and spawn, and some other ones here like web search and web fetch. So, but you could also add like custom MCP servers under tools. You have MCP servers, and then you can provide this here. So this is how you can, for example, your own API. You see, you can provide it here, and then you could have more tools that you could supply to your agents. For security, everything relies on the configuration file. So you edit the configuration file, so restrict to works tools, restrict to workspace through. So everything is going to happen in your workspace. So that is how you kind of like provide security. So the next thing, we're going to see how to run multiple instances. So you can run multiple instances like this. So you can onboard another agent. So you could, for example, here you see we have nanobot work and nanobot personal. So I could create another one here by just running this. It's going to have its own workspace, and then whenever you want to start it, you have to start it with the dash config option. So this is going to make sure that you have your own gateway. So you could connect another Telegram to this particular bot. So it will have its own configuration file. It will have its own gateway, and you can start it independent of the other one. So you understand. So the next thing we're going to see is deployment. So in deployment, nanobot can also run on Docker. So for example, here you see, so you could just say docker compose -run -m nanobot CLI on board. So and that is how you will be able to set it up. So using docker compose. So if you want, you could also do just this direct run here. So you could run, create a volume, and you are up and going. So if you feel like you want to run it using Docker. So I have also talked about the OpenAI-compatible API. So you could install it on its own and then just it alone and then do nanobot serve. So this is how you set it. The last thing I'm going to be talking about is the Python SDK. So this is actually, if you have nanobot installed as a pip package, you can actually import it like this. And then you can say bot equals to nanobot from config. So it's going to use your default configuration, and then you could run and get the result. So you could actually use it in your own Python application. So this is all I'm going to cover about nanobot. I think the basic is just getting your models connected, connecting it to Telegram or WhatsApp or whatever provider you want to, starting your gateway. I think the rest are just so easy and intuitive if you have actually used other bot previously. So if you like this kind of content, subscribe to my channel and I will keep them coming.